So on this problem right here, the very first thing that we need to do is find a common denominator, okay? The common denominator would be taking 1 of everything that appears on the bottom, which would be 3x. Do you guys agree with me that my common denominator is 3x?
Yes.
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply every part of my common denominator by 3x, okay? So if I multiply the 8 by 3x, and I multiply the 11 by 3x, and then I would multiply the negative 14 by 3x. I find the common denominator and I multiply every part by it. Before I multiply though, I'm lazy, so I want to cancel stuff. Do you see how on just this fraction right here, the x divided by the x would be gone?
Yes.
Yeah? So I really only have to multiply it by 3 to get 24. Now I want to remind you guys that have paid attention when I've been teaching addition. Do you remember how when we did addition I said just multiply it by the part that it's missing? Did you see what I did? I multiplied it by the part it was missing, right? That's really what happened there. But earlier today when I showed that, someone says to me, well, what happened to the denominator? Well, I'm showing you right now that my denominators cancel if I'm trying to solve. Okay? So right here, if I have to multiply the top by 3x because it's my common denominator, do you guys agree with me that the 3's cancel? And I'm just multiplying by x. So I would get plus 11x. And then it would be equal to on this other side. The x's will cancel and I'm really just multiplying by 3 to get, I don't know, 42, negative 42?
Negative 42.
Thank you. All right, somebody asked me what I did because I know there's some confusion. Anybody? Yeah, so Austin, go ahead.
Why did you put the denominator on the bottom?
Yeah, why didn't I? Because I'm not adding, I'm solving. So when I add, I have to show the denominator there, right? So I find my common denominator and I multiply by the parts that are missing. But here I'm solving the equation. So when I solve the equation, I really am just going to multiply every top part by the entire denominator. And it will cancel the bottom part so that I really just have an equation to solve. Okay? There's really not a better way to explain it than showing you the way that that works right here. But I am, on the next problem, I'm just going to show you how I do it without canceling this stuff because it's the way that I taught you before. But we need to solve this now. So we're going to subtract the 24 over to the other side. And I get 11x equals negative 66. So what's your x value? Go see if it would make a difference on the bottom of any of these. Is it okay to have negative 6?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is my solution. Okay? All right, so we're going to do it again. And I'm going to show you how I do it so it doesn't get so messy like this, okay? So look at this next problem and tell me what the common denominator is.
2x.
Is it 2 or is it 4?
It's 4.
It's got to be 4x, right, because of the 4? Because the common denominator between the 2 and the 4 would be 4. And then you just grab one of the x's. So my common denominator is 4x. Okay? I like to do this the way that we did it when I taught you to add. So I just multiply the tops by what's missing. Because I know if I multiply by the whole thing, the bottom's going to cancel. So tell me what part of my common denominator the 4 is missing? X. So guess what I'm going to multiply by? X. And I get 11x. You following me? I don't have to worry about the denominator anymore because it's going to cancel if I multiplied by the whole thing. Okay? What part of the denominator is the x missing? 4. So what am I going to multiply the top by? 4. Don't forget your negative sign right there. What's it going to be? Minus 12. Okay? What part of my denominator am I missing? It's 2, right? So I have to multiply the top by 2 and I get 10. Okay? Now I just need to solve that.
So there's no denominator for solving.
Add 12.
Okay, add 12 to the other side. So I get 11x equals 22. So x equals 2. Okay, go check it for me and make sure it will work. Can I put 2 in right here and be okay? Yeah. Can I put 2 in right here and be okay? Yeah. So am I going to get a solution? I am. I'm good right there. X equals 2. Okay. I like to do this method because it's cleaner than this method, right? It's not that we're forgetting about the denominator. It's that we know it's going to cancel. Are you guys following me on that? All right, next one. What's the bottom of the 1 right here? 1. So we're looking for a common denominator. My common denominator this time is 1 of everything on the bottom. So I have x plus 2 and I have x. You guys agree with me on that? What's the x plus 2 missing? It's missing the extra x. What's the 1 missing? Both parts, right? The x plus 2 and the x. And what's the x missing here? The x plus 2. So I'm going to write this out as a multiply problem now here. I would have 4 times x, because it was missing that. Then I would have to multiply these two together. So I'm just going to write it here so that I can do it in just a minute. And then I would have to multiply the 9 by the x plus 2. So I really just kind of wrote it out so that I didn't lose you guys while I was doing this, okay? And now I'm going to go back through and I'm going to actually do my multiplying. So here I have 4x out in the front. That x has to go through to both parts right there. So I get x squared plus 2x. What do I get on the other side? 9x plus 18. All right, I have a squared term in there, which automatically tells me I need to set this sucker equal to 0, right? Because I'm either going to factor it or put it through the quadratic formula. So I'm going to combine like terms on this side first just to make it look prettier. So I have x squared plus 6x from the 4 and the 2 equals 9x plus 18. And I need to move this stuff over to the other side. So how do I move the 9x over? Minus it. And how do I move the 18 over? Minus it. That 18 is going to get thrown back behind. So I'll have x squared minus 3x minus 18. How am I going to solve that? Factor it. So look to see if you can find your numbers that will multiply to a negative 18 and add to be a negative 3. 6 and 3. Which signs? Negative 6, positive 3. Okay, bring those out for me. X equals negative 3. X equals positive 6. Will you go back and check to see if those are going to matter on my bottoms?
No.
Austin says no. What do the rest of you think? They don't make the bottom 0, so I'm good. These are both my solutions. Okay. Questions on how I did that?
So does it matter which way you go?
What do you mean which way I go?
Like when you went to go set it to 0?
Could I have moved the x squared over and the 6x over? I could have, but do you remember what I've taught you guys about getting a negative in front of that x squared? You'd have to factor out that negative 1 and then go from there, right? So I always want to try to keep that x squared positive if I can, because it factors easily instead of making us have to factor out a negative and then factor it. Other questions? That was a good question.
Are we going to do the last one?
Yeah, we're doing the last one. Why would we not do the last one?
Wait, you did take an X out of all just to ask a question. I figured that one would do.
Yeah, we're doing it. We got this. Okay, if you remember, when we have addition, the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find a common denominator. In order to find a common denominator, it has to be in factored form. So factor this bottom right here. What does that factor to be?
X squared plus
X plus
3
3, X minus 3.
Okay, so x plus 3, x minus 3, because that's a difference of squares, right? Austin.
Can they cancel?
Oh, no, they cannot cancel. Not when we're doing addition and subtraction, right? Yep, you knew that, though. I saw you correct yourself. So my common denominator is 1 of everything. So an x plus 3 and an x minus 3. That's all I need, right? That's 1 of everything. All right. Is this denominator missing anything for my common denominator? No, it's not. So I don't have to multiply it by anything. I just get 8x squared. Okay. What's this denominator missing? The x minus 3, right? So I'm going to have that minus 4x there, and I have to multiply it by the x minus 3. I'm just kind of showing you down below what I'm doing. And then it would be equal to whatever I have to do over here. So what's the x minus 3 missing? The x plus 3. So over here I'd have 2 times x plus 3. So I just wrote it out so that we can simplify it in a straight line instead of it just kind of up there at the top. Okay? So rewriting this, you guys just shout it out for me. What do I have? 8x squared minus 4x squared plus 12x
equals 2x plus
Good. Automatically, you can see that it has a squared term in it, which means we're going to have to set it equal to 0 in order to solve it, right? So we're going to combine like terms on one side and then start moving things. Austin, did you have a question?
I was saying, why don't we combine the
Yeah, we totally want to combine those first, right? So 8x squared minus 4x squared is 4x squared. So on this side, I have 4x squared plus 12x. On the other side, 2x plus 6. I need to move this stuff over here because remember how I said always keep that number positive if you can, right?